A Simple Favour is the newest film from female-centric writer-director Paul Feig, who you might know from his previous work, Swear Words Are Jokes, or Men Aren't Funny the Movie.
You think women are funnier than men? Because I do.
Yes, I do. I think they should probably just give up. Or give it up. They could give it up.
They could give it up.
I mean, they could give it up.
Are women funnier than men? Yes, they are. It's just a fact. I don't know what to tell you.
Despite how little I like Feig's work, this film is actually pretty great. The main thing I was expecting to hate about this was Blake Lively, who has been in modern masterpieces like CGI, and I had a car crash, so now I'm immortal or some shit. But despite her history of being an absolute unwatchable garbage, in this entry she's pretty amazing. The interplay between her and Anna Kendrick is just awesome. They have this fantastic on-screen chemistry that stems from both their talent as performance artists as well as their really untropy character archetypes. Anna Kendrick plays what's on the surface value seems to be like a sheltered child-orientated mum character, while Blake Lively plays the spiritual opposite. The greatness of the characters, though, is in the subversion of their archetypes. As we learn a few things that are not so pristine about Kendrick, both characters take on new, fully fleshed out dimensions that really differentiate them from similar characters in other films. Each of the supporting characters also feel like they're fully developed and have personality, which sadly is kinda rare. Most of the time a supporting character with less than 10 lines feels like they're there just to progress the leads through the narrative, but in A Simple Favour they're full of life. Both the African-American police officer and the mom have some of the best jokes in the film. And they aren't just delivering lines, the jokes are really tethered to their personas. On the topic of humor, in contrast to Feig's other work, this is probably the only time the comedy has ever worked for me. The reason for this is because, for once, the narrative's the primary focus of the film, and the comedy is used like it's meant to be, as tonal control and support for your more dense content. I audibly laughed at a Paul Feig film. Comedy aside though, this film has some really meaty, serious moments, my favourite of which are told in flashback, which I never thought I'd say. I'll talk more about that when I get into spoilers though, and don't worry, I'll let you know before I do. The editing was pretty fucking exceptional. The timing and weight of some of the flashback scenes intercut with conversation and layered dialogue, even some of the sound effects had me seriously impressed that this came out of the director of this shit.
Oh, hell no, the devil is a liar! Get out of my friend, ghost!
Ow, that's gonna leave a mark!
The power of pain compels you!
Ow!
Despite my enjoyment, the film is not without fault. Some of the events that happen seem kinda stupid. Anna Kendrick finds a piece of information that leads her to an artist, and I seriously have no idea how she managed to find this person. The same thing more or less happens with where that interaction leads her. Not in finding the location, but more in terms of finding the information she does there, and why she would be allowed to do what she's doing when she does find it. Additionally, I thought the third act was pretty predictable, and I think it's where the film was at its narrative weakest. Anyway, I'm becoming vague, so I might as well just jump into spoilers, so if you haven't seen it yet, I strongly urge that you skip ahead to this timestamp. So let me elaborate on my criticism first a little. When Anna Kendrick finds the artist's name for no good reason, she's like poking this painting out of its frame, and then somehow she finds where she lives from that? Like, try it for yourself. Use any artist's name you can think of and try and find their residential address. No. You can't. Everything from Kendrick visiting Lively's family home to the conversation in the graveyard between both leads feels pretty sloppy and kinda rushed. The feeling I got was that this was an inconvenience they wanted to skip past, because they noticed, like their audience likely did, that their character dynamics are the high point of the film, but they had to have these scenes for the sake of the plot making sense. When Anna Kendrick is driving away from Blake Lively's family house, and is being pursued by her stepfather, I think he is, he magically teleports in front of her somehow in order to stand menacingly in front of the gate holding his shotgun. In that moment, all I could think was, we're going to have our expectations comedically subverted, aren't we? Which, as my sarcasm might imply, it didn't. Speaking of chase, car, good segue. I was a big fan of the fact that Anna Kendrick's brother and husband died in a car accident, and that was in some essence her fault. And that is mirrored later in the film when Blake Lively kills her sister. Other little details I loved was the intercutting of the scene where drunken Anna Kendrick confesses to having sex with her brother. The lie she is telling versus the intensity of the visuals and the concept that's presented to us was either my favorite or second favorite scene of the film. The other being the wardrobe restacking itself, which practically doesn't make much sense, but I don't give a fuck because it was a great moment. Before I wrap this up, I'm just gonna list off a couple of quick problems I had. When the African-American police officer turns up and interrogates Anna Kendrick while she's stuck in that dress, why does she lie to him? There's no reason other than to cultivate an artificial tension that isn't readdressed, because she never comes under suspicion again. Why does Blake Lively's sister need $4 million? I get it, you're out of cash, but $4 million is a really large, weird, and specific number. Even weirder is that that's the amount that the insurance premium was raised to? Like why? You've already killed your sister. You don't need to give her the $4 million. Why did you increase your premium by $4 million? Like, I get it. You want some money. But why does it have to be the same number as what your sister wanted? It just seems like they're trying to correlate ideas and they don't necessarily make sense in unison. Anyway, I had a great time, and I hope that if Feig wants to continue his brand of being a lady-orientated director, he continues to produce this kind of content, as opposed to the brainless, cynical, poorly written schlock that is the remainder of his filmography. And with this, I'm going to give this film an 8 out of 10. If you liked this review, you might like some of my short-form written pieces or simply my ratings on Letterboxd. You can find me at letterboxd.com/faircloughj or right here on the tubes.